Hi, this is Christina at Cemetery of Choice, and it is time for another rant from my kitchen. And what I want to talk about today is, how people are catching on now that Black Lives Matter and anti-racism are brand names rather than a reality. That these were cynical terms that people came up with to hide their agenda, because who could be opposed to Black Lives Mattering? Who could be opposed to opposing racism? So they have this other agenda, but when you look closely, what they do does not promote what their name says. Black Lives Matter, do you see them getting upset about little Amaria Jones getting shot dead in her home while she was showing her mom dance moves? No, you don't hear a word from them. In fact, they're out there praising looters, calling looting reparations. Now, what does that have to do with police brutality or Black Lives Mattering? They put on this really good face, but that's not what they're really about. And if you look at the anti-racism agenda, it's not about reducing racism. It's about intensifying racism and turning it into every single thing is racist. If you're white and you let a black person get on the elevator first, then you're showing that you want to keep an eye on them because you can't trust them and you don't want them to be behind you. But if you get on the elevator first, that's because you're exercising your white privilege and denying them the chance to go up first. So people are waking up to the fact that anti-racism and Black Lives Matter are cynical slogans, and they are not what those movements are actually about. Well, they took their lesson from the pro-choice movement. And a lot of pro-choice people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? They're really... No. Just like a lot of Black Lives Matter supporters are out there with their signs and their chants and their t-shirts, and they are making donations, and they are really believing that they are protecting black people from police brutality. Look at, and come on, you guys have started to notice how extreme the abortion rights agenda has been getting. That they're actively talking about how it's wrong to require that you not let a baby die if it survives an abortion attempt. They're opposed to that. They're promoting legal abortions throughout the entire pregnancy. Well, guess what? That has been in place all along. It's always been that way. They're just becoming a little bit more open about it. And what you have to look at is what they actually do and what they actually promote. And if you follow the Cemetery of Choice, if you follow the Real Choice blog, if you go to the Cemetery of Choice website at all, and if you're following this channel and looking at the abortion deaths, you will see that they lied. Bernard Nathanson, who was one of the founders of NARAL, back when it was the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws, now it's NARAL Pro-Choice America, he says, I recall laughing when we made those slogans up. Okay? You should read his book, Aborting America. It is a behind-the-scenes look at how they came up. They said, well, nobody's going to be for abortions. We are never going to get anywhere with a movement where we say we're pro-abortion, and they came up with pro-choice because choice, everybody's for choices, except the pro-choice movement really isn't for choices when you look carefully at what they do. They have never, to my knowledge, spoken up against coerced abortion. They've never spoken up. Hillary Clinton once that I know of, spoke up against the forced abortions in China. But you don't hear a whole lot about that, do you? You've got all these international organizations pushing for abortion to be readily available in all these countries, but you don't hear a whole lot about women being allowed to choose not to have abortions. On August 16th, I talked about the death of Marla Cardamone. She was badgered into an unwanted abortion at McGee Women's Hospital, and they botched it, and she died along with her baby. I've talked about Allegra Roseberry. She was bullied into an unwanted abortion with lies. She died along with her healthy baby that they tricked her into aborting. And you will never, ever, ever, ever see the supposed pro-choice movement getting upset about these women who are being forced into unwanted abortions. Notice that it's never pro-choice people who are getting bent out of shape when men order abortion pills online and slip them into women's drinks. It's the pro-lifers that get upset about that. I have yet to see a pro-choice organization saying we need to be careful to make sure that sleazy men are not getting hold of these abortion drugs and slipping them into women's food and drink. They don't say that, do they? And they talk about, oh, we want to prevent abortion by making contraception more available. You ever notice that they really never push hard for making tubal ligation more readily available? When I was the pro-life contact at about.com, I had one woman complain to me. She says, I've had 4 abortions, she said, and I didn't want any of these abortions. I don't want children. I don't want to ever have children. I went to my doctor. I said, I don't want children. I don't ever want children. And he refused to do a tubal ligation because I might regret it later. And if you look, you can see that it is not a matter of this woman just going in. She could be 23 years old and go, look, I know I never want kids. Do this tubal ligation. And these doctors will go, no, you'll regret it later. Where's the pro-choice movement about that? The reproductive rights? Oh, women need to be able to choose what to do with their own bodies. They never get bent out of shape about women having a hard time getting their tubes tied. Do you? You never hear that. Look at frozen embryos cases. You can start with the really famous one, the Junior and Mary Sue Davis frozen embryos case. Every time there is a custody battle over frozen embryos, these are not in somebody's body. So you cannot say this is about a woman's body. Okay? They're in the freezer. Like the embryos in Jurassic Park, they're in the freezer. Pro-choice groups, when they take a side, they will always side with the party that wants the embryos destroyed. Isn't that interesting? They don't stand up for the woman. And like Junior Davis was saying, I don't want to be forced to be a father against my will. Well, first of all, you went to a lot of trouble and expense to create these embryos. And Mary Sue was saying, look, I just want to make them available for what's now called snowflake adoption. Just let another infertile couple have these babies. We never need to know whether or not it even happens. You'll have no responsibility for them. And even still, Junior Davis went to court, and the pro-choice movement sided with him against his crying soon-to-be ex-wife, who is begging for the lives of these embryos that to her are valuable human beings. Isn't that interesting? They always side with whoever wants those embryos destroyed. And they say it's about women's safety. They were referring women to Kermit Gosnell. It was pro-choice Governor Tom Ridge who ordered, against the law. The law said that abortion clinics had to be inspected annually, just like nail salons. Ridge said, no, do not inspect an abortion clinic unless there is a complaint. Why? Because if you go in, they're not going to be able to pass inspection. You're going to have to close them down. And the last thing they can stand is an abortion clinic being closed down. And it's not like there's one abortion clinic in Pennsylvania. Hello, there's a ton of them. And they knew how horrible Kermit Gosnell's abortion clinic was. But they did not go in and inspect it. They did not go in and shut it down until after the drug raid and after the media blitz about the flea-infested cats crapping all over the floor. And then it's like, oh, I guess we'll close him now. They didn't close him before. He worked 1 day a week at a National Abortion Federation clinic. So if a woman did her homework, she's like, okay, I want to make sure that I have a safe abortion. Google safe abortion. Oh, National Abortion Federation, high standards. Tappity, tap, tap, tap. She would go into this National Abortion Federation clinic with a National Abortion Federation sticker on their window and the National Abortion Federation logo on their website. And she would go in and they would collect her money and do her informed consent and hand her off to Kermit Gosnell. This is what happened to the mother of baby boy A, this illegal third trimester abortion that culminated in the murder of a baby who was probably 32 weeks gestation. Started in a National Abortion Federation clinic, and they would hand these women off to Gosnell. He'd insert the laminaria in their clinic, and then he would have his untrained staff with an 8th grade education dope these women within inches of their lives and leave them wrapped in dirty blankets on blood-stained recliners to gasp and moan until they pushed out their living babies that Gosnell and his staff would then kill with scissors to the back of the neck. It was not pro-lifers who were referring to them. He was working in a National Abortion Federation clinic, and National Abortion Federation member clinics referred women to them. Desiree Hawkins, who got the call from the police that her baby's feet were found in Gosnell's clinic, she was referred by a National Abortion Federation member clinic. How much can they really care about women's safety when they are referring women to Kermit Gosnell and letting him work at one of their clinics? And you'll look, they will fight tooth and nail against anything that actually promotes women's safety. Put some links below about the Compton car effect, which is after the Miami Herald found a Gosnell-esque clinic in Miami. The state wanted to go in and close places like that down, and Janice Compton Carr, the Florida Abortion Council, said, "In my gut, I am completely aghast at what goes on in that place, but I staunchly oppose any effort to correct this situation in law." They are not about protecting women's lives. They are not about protecting women's choices. They are about protecting abortion. That's it. And I am not asking pro-choice people to stop supporting abortion as an option any more than when you say, look, Black Lives Matter. You know, drive a stake through its heart. That doesn't mean you hate black people. It doesn't mean you love police brutality. It means you see them for what they are and you don't trust them. Ditto with this anti-racism stuff. When you say you need to take that book, White Fragility, and, you know, it's trash, don't read this, don't let them do this training, that's not because you're pro-racist. It's because you know that these people have a completely different agenda and that they can't be trusted. And it is the same with the pro-choice movement. Their agenda is not women's choices. It's not women's safety. But they came up with this slogan and they talk a good talk. But I listened to years and years and years of National Abortion Federation tapes. And in one of them, Kitty Colbert of the ACLU Reproductive Rights Project, okay, the ACLU, they're all for choice. They're all for protecting women, right? They were talking about malpractice. And Kitty Colbert was chewing out these National Abortion Federation doctors, these cream of the crop doctors, begging them to quit committing malpractice because she hates, in her words, having to beat the shit out of this woman to get her to drop her lawsuit. The ACLU had a lawyer who was beating the shit out of injured women to get them to drop their lawsuits against these abortion clinics. You tell me that this pro-choice movement, that the abortion lobby, that the ACLU Reproductive Rights Project, that Planned Parenthood, that the National Abortion Federation, National Organization for Women, all the people who support this crap, they are no more for women's rights, women's health, women's choices than Black Lives Matter is about protecting black lives, or that these anti-racism people are about stopping racism. It's a slogan. It's not a reality.